Good evening and welcome. You're watching the Newstrack. I'm Rahul. Kanwal. It carries with it the pride of 1.4 billion Indians. And Chandrayaan 3 is now on its way to the moon. In a moment from now, the Minister at the helm of Science and Technology, Jitendra Singh, will be joining me on this broadcast as we look at the big Chandrayaan 3 mission. Also on the show this evening, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France.
Peak prestige for Prime Minister in Paris. India shines at Bastille Day Parade. Big fighter and submarine deals afoot. France pins top honor on Modi. Modi's top gear French connect. Vishwaguru, India's moment.
Here's a look at the headlines today. Chandrayaan 3 blasts off to the moon, successfully enters orbit. It will make its lunar landing in 40 days from now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds.
Liftoff normal.
Here we have a majestic liftoff of LVM-3 M4 rocket carrying India's prestigious Chandrayaan 3 spacecraft.
Parts of northeast Delhi still submerged. 3 children die after drowning in flood waters. Threat of waterborne diseases looms. Flood politics peaks. AAP alleges conspiracy. Delhi ministers blame Lieutenant Governor Saxena for the mayhem. Ajit Pawar becomes Finance Minister of Maharashtra. 2 ministries from the Shinde camp are given to the Ajit faction. Another setback for DMK leader Senthil Balaji. Madras High Court validates the ED custody. Says money laundering is not the only offence in this case. Carrying a billion dreams, India has shot for the moon. ISRO today launched its 3rd lunar mission. The Chandrayaan 3 lifted off at 2:35 p.m. with an orbiter lander and a rover from Sriharikota, which is expected to land on the surface of the moon on the 23rd or the 24th of August. If successful, India will launch an exclusive club of just 3 other countries that have managed a soft landing on the moon.
3, 2, 1, 0.
India shoots for the moon, carrying hopes of billions of Indians. Bahubali rocket LVM-3 rocket lifted off with Chandrayaan 3, aiming to land a rover on the moon's surface. The takeoff was picture perfect, every technical milestone achieved.
यह भीमकाय रॉकेट आसमान को चीरते हुए अपनी भयानक दहाड़ से चारों ओर कंपन उत्पन्न कर रहा है.
And as Chandrayaan 3 separated from the rocket, scientists and space enthusiasts gathered to witness history and broke into applause.
We are excited, elated by the success of this because it was so much important for us to put it first in the orbit. Without that, there is no further travel to moon possible. So that way, it is really exciting for us.
The spacecraft will take about 2 weeks or more now to enter lunar orbit, aiming to be the first to land near little explored south pole of the moon. The journey is estimated to take more than 40 days, with the spacecraft potentially reaching the moon around August 23rd or 24th.
It was perfect, and all the propulsion stages worked very nicely, and the intended orbit also was achieved, and it was a perfect mission.
If ISRO pulls this mission off successfully, India will join an exclusive list of just 3 other countries that have managed a soft landing on the moon: US, former Soviet Union, and most recently China.
It's a moment of glory for India, also a moment of glory for you and I, all of us who have been part of the history in the making. And while Team ISRO has done the entire country proud, India has reaffirmed its leading role as a global player.
India's second lunar mission was launched in July 2019, but it was only partially successful. Even today, its orbiter continues to circle and study the moon. But the lander rover failed, crash landing during touchdown. Chandrayaan 3 comes 13 years after the first moon mission in 2008. With Pramod Madhav and Nagarjun Dwarkanath in Sriharikota, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is the Chandrayaan in its third avatar. The last time too, the launch was very successful. The landing wasn't. Here's a look at India's journey to the moon.
3, 2, 1.
The clock ticked, and at exactly 2:43 p.m. on 22nd July 2019, India took a giant leap to the moon. For the second time, Indian Space Research Organization created history by the successful launch of Chandrayaan 2.
L110 engine started.
अभी अनाउंस किया गया कि L110 जो कि हमारा दूसरा मुख्य रॉकेट है उसका इग्निशन हो गया है, उसके दोनों इंजन प्रज्वलित हो गए हैं.
This was India's second mission to the moon after the successful voyage of Chandrayaan in 2008.
Ignition sequence normal and liftoff normal.
GSLV Mk3 blasted off to space carrying a Land Rover, orbiter and a lander with a speed of 11 kilometers per second from the Satish Dhawan Space Research Centre in Sriharikota.
It is the beginning of a historical journey of India towards moon and to land at a place near South Pole to carry out scientific experiments to explore unexplored.
Within minutes, Chandrayaan 2 was successfully placed into the Earth's orbit. As the space vehicle beamed back a perfect report card, Indian space scientists at Mission Control erupted with joy.
7.4 kilometers and the velocity was nearly 140. So the Vikram lander has successfully completed the rough braking phase.
The mission was expected to take 48 days in total to land its rover Pragyan on the south pole of the moon, roughly on 14th September 2019. But then, on 10th September, days before the final landing on moon, ISRO announced that it had lost contact with lander Vikram. ISRO scientists were disappointed. It was an emotional moment. Chandrayaan 2 suffered various delays and revisions a decade after the successful maiden Indian moon mission Chandrayaan 1. In October 2008, ISRO successfully launched Chandrayaan 1. On 22nd October 2008, Chandrayaan mission with a lunar orbiter and impactor was launched using PSLV XL from Satish Dhawan Space Centre at Sriharikota.
Ignition sequence normal and liftoff normal.
It was a big boost to Indian space exploration history. India researched and developed indigenous technology to explore the moon with Chandrayaan 1. 2 weeks after its launch, it was inserted into lunar orbit on 8th November 2008. On 14th November 2008, the Moon Impact Probe separated from the Chandrayaan orbiter and struck the South Pole in a controlled manner. India became the fourth country to place its flag insignia on the moon, near the crater Shackleton. The location of impact was named Jawahar Point. Though Chandrayaan-1 was planned to survey the lunar surface for 2 years, but after a successful year of transmitting data and detecting presence of lunar water, it stopped communicating on 28 August 2009. 312 days of Chandrayaan-1 was a celebration of ISRO's hard work and indigenous technological advancement in space exploration. Nearly 7 years later, NASA, with a ground-based radar system, relocated Chandrayaan-1 in its lunar orbit. Today, its orbit varies between 150 and 270 kilometers in altitude every 2 years around the moon.
After the failure of Chandrayaan-2, ISRO scientists went back to the drawing board, looked at all their calculations to try and ensure that Chandrayaan-3 is a grand success. We look at how things have changed, how the program has evolved, and how ISRO thinks this time this rover is set for success.
Chandrayaan-3 is going to be the world's first mission to soft land near the lunar South Pole. It would take roughly 42 days for the lander and rover to reach the moon and attempt a soft landing. Last time in 2019, Chandrayaan-2 crash-landed on the lunar surface. It was a partial failure and it triggered a very innovative method adopted by the Indian Space Research Organization for the follow-up mission, Chandrayaan-3. Chandrayaan-3 is similar to Chandrayaan-2 and yet very different. Chandrayaan-3 lander and rover will attempt to land at the exact same spot attempted by its predecessor in September 2019. But unlike a combination of orbiter, lander and rover, Chandrayaan-3 will have only the lander and rover, but no orbiter. Instead, it will use the orbiter of Chandrayaan-2, which is still operational and has been sending valuable data from its 9 in situ instruments. The propulsion module of the Chandrayaan-3 mission will have just a single instrument named Spectropolarimetry of Habitable Planet Earth, which will analyze the spectrum of Earth to generate data for habitable planets. Another addition to the Chandrayaan-3 mission is the Laser Retroreflector Array, or LRA. It is being sent with the lander. LRA would be a passive experiment to understand the dynamics of the moon system. The other 3 payloads being launched with the mission are the same as that of the Vikram lander on Chandrayaan-2.
See, there is certain conditions in which it is supposed to work, and the conditions in which work has a window. If anything happens beyond the window, it may work, it may not work. So what we did this time is the window is expanded. Its ability to land at a higher speeds. Its ability to work within this much quantity of propellant is enhanced. We say this much is the power capability, we expanded. How about rover? Rover, we have not made any change this time. It is exactly the same rover.
To achieve its objectives, Chandrayaan-3 has lander hazard detection and avoidance cameras that will be used to coordinate with the orbiter and the mission control as the lander makes its descent approach to the surface of the moon. Chandrayaan-2 has just one such camera. Chandrayaan-3 has been fitted with 2 such cameras.
So we addressed all such failure modes, and we built a more rigorous hardening of many systems, including its ability to land at a higher speed, more propellant to handle, more power generation capability, more disorientation capability, more ability to handle rotations, and we added additional sensors and sensor failures we addressed. So, and we did all these test in simulation modes and made sure that all our thinking process algorithms do work under extreme conditions.
All previous spacecraft to have landed on the moon have landed in the equatorial region. Whether it's US or Russia, they all landed a few degrees latitude north or south of the lunar equator. The furthest that any spacecraft has gone from the equator was Surveyor 7, launched by NASA, which made a moon landing way back on January 10, 1968. This spacecraft landed near 40 degrees south latitude. A successful Chandrayaan-3 will not only elevate India into the elite group of lunar explorers as the fourth country to do so, but it would also mark India's expertise to do so at the most tough circumstances and in virgin lunar territory.
In a moment from now, I'm going to take you live to Chennai, where the man leading the ministry in charge of space and technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh, will be joining us live to talk about this mission. He was at the Sriharikota Launch Center when Chandrayaan-3 took off. But before that, I want to spend a moment on the history of India's space research. Aryabhatta, the first known Indian astronomer and the inventor of zero, had for the first time explained the solar and lunar eclipses. India today is one of the elite space explorers. Here's a report from the India Today archives on this country's space mission.
Modern space research started in India in the 1920s, but it would take decades before the institutionalized probe into space-related activities would gain nationwide attention. The first milestone in Indian space exploration was the establishment of the Indian National Committee for Space Research, or INCOSPAR, by then Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, along with scientist Vikram Sarabhai in the year 1962.
ISRO started, as you know, with the vision of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, and he thought this vantage point of space could have a very, very interesting use for this country. So he thought that we should build this capability, because India is a developing country at that time, 1960s, I am talking of early 60s, and obviously our developmental needs were very different from the United States and the then Soviet Union.
Tumba in those days used to be a tiny village on the outskirts of Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala. But Tumba was different from other fishing villages in the area.
Then he found that there is this Tumba equatorial region, which is a geomagnetic equator which passes over that land, and because of that there are some very interesting physical phenomena in the atmosphere and ionosphere above. So he thought, as a first step, let us explore this with rockets.
It was very close to the Earth's magnetic equator, and so Vikram Sarabhai met the local bishop, Reverend Peter Bernard Pereira, to set up his dream space research center in the village. The fishing community in Tumba was primarily Christian, and the Reverend offered the church for the sake of science. Thus began space research of modern India at St. Mary Magdalene Church, which was rechristened as Tumba Equatorial Rocket Launch Station, or TERLS. The prayer room of the church became the laboratory of APJ Abdul Kalam. It was later named the Vikram Sarabhai Space Centre.
Vikram Sarabhai telling people after a few years, okay, India has to develop a capability to launch satellites. Why? Because using the satellites, India can leapfrog in terms of development in the field of education, communication, and telemedicine, etc., etc. In other words, you don't have to build the ground infrastructure which other nations built, and then when the satellite came, they had to change everything. Whereas we have almost a virgin land where we can straight away go to the higher technology. So he sold the idea of satellite development and satellite launching for the purpose of national development.
INCOSPAR launched India's first rocket in 1963 from Tumba. By the end of the 60s, INCOSPAR grew to become the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. Around the same time, the Government of India formed the Space Commission for Policy Formulation. research and execution of space-related enterprises got a boost in the country. ISRO improvised and developed technology, launching several indigenously created vehicles into space. From the modest start of launching Aryabhatta, the first Indian satellite using a Russian rocket in 1975, India has certainly come a long way. Aryabhatta provided India with the basis of learning satellite technology and design. Same year, ISRO along with NASA developed means of using space communication system for TV broadcasting that was acronymed as SITE, or the Satellite Instructional Television Experiment. The one-year program covering Indian villages and districts was to experiment usage of satellite broadcasting for mass education. For the next 2 years, 1976 and 77, ISRO launched Satellite Telecommunication Experiments Project, or the STEP, as a sequel to SITE. It used satellite technology to enhance domestic communication. As the 1970s wound up, ISRO was emboldened to create the first indigenous satellite vehicle that was launched from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh in 1980. SLV-3 successfully placed the Rohini satellite, or the RS-1, in orbit, making India only the 6th member of an exclusive club of spacefaring nations. But it was time for ISRO to move a step forward with its satellite broadcast program. Having experimented with SITE and STEP, the Indian National Satellite System, or the INSAT, was commissioned in 1983 to work on broadcasting, telecommunication, meteorology and rescue operations. Over the next few decades, ISRO successfully propelled a number of INSAT satellites into space, making it the largest domestic communication system in the Asia-Pacific region. It was time for an attempt to make manned mission to space. The first Indo-Soviet manned space mission was launched in 1984. Air Force test pilots Rakesh Sharma and Ravish Malhotra went through rigorous trainings for almost 2 years in the Soviet Union. Finally, Rakesh Sharma was chosen to be the first Indian to go up into space.
I want to go across now, live and exclusive to Chennai. Joining us from there is the Minister of State with independent charge for Science and Technology, Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, in charge also of atomic energy and space research. Dr. Jitendra Singh was with the team at ISRO at the launch center. He's just come back from Chennai, and I must tell our viewers this. I just discovered that Dr. Jitendra Singh speaks chaste Tamil. I didn't know that. He's a man from Jammu and Kashmir. For him to speak Tamil the way that I just discovered he does is quite incredible. You're a man of many talents. Dr. Jitendra Singh, welcome. You were at the Sriharikota Center when the launch was taking place, Satish Dhawan Space Centre. Explain the sentiment, the emotions that you witnessed when this launch happened, sir.
Thank you, Rahul, for at the outset for having got me over here. As you said, I'm just back from Sriharikota. As you would have witnessed, there is a huge lot of enthusiasm across the country, and even at Sriharikota, I think for the first time, the Satish Dhawan Space Centre was a witness to such a huge crowd of people from all sections of society. There were students, there were youth, there were academicians, scientific fraternity, of course, both the superannuated, the working ones, and most of all the media persons. We had at least as many as about 1,000 media persons, and I think this is a territory which was in a way forbidden for media. So I think that was the first time the gates of Satish Dhawan Space Centre were thrown open for such a huge media presence. I remember the times when even a launching would get covered in the days of print media after 2 days. And that too if a failure had happened. If it had gone smoothly, it wouldn't even invite media attention. But now, I think that is now the change. The ecosystem which has been developed in the last 3-4 years after Prime Minister Modi took a very path-breaking decision, breaking the taboos of the past to allow private participation and to allow other stakeholders to partner with ISRO. So even in today's mission, for example, we had the participation of the industry. So there you could see the academia, you could see the industry, you could see startups, you could see the media, and I think that media, in fact, has also become a part of the entire exercise behind the mission. So that kind of enthusiasm, cutting across the sections of society, shows the involvement of the people as a whole, the nation as a whole, and also they were owning it up as something which was a matter of great pride to them, and possibly also feeling a sense of supremacy being gained by India, which was till a few years ago looked at as a country which had nothing much to do with these new progressive areas like space technology or even climate change.
There's a lot of emotion attached to Chandrayaan 3, especially on the back of what happened unfortunately with Chandrayaan 2. You were speaking to all the scientists at ISRO. How confident are they that enough changes have been made in the manner in which this shuttle will operate to ensure that the soft landing on the 23rd, 24th of August completes the unfinished mission of Chandrayaan 2?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that, Rahul. I was just to add to what I was saying right now. The enthusiasm was so infectious that even the commoners were going to offer prayers before entering into that gallery. So that was the... Anyway, having said that, now as far as Chandrayaan 3 is concerned, vis-a-vis Chandrayaan 2, I would not precisely, as someone from the scientific fraternity, describe Chandrayaan 2 as a failure, in the sense that there's hardly been any country in the world which has had a successful landing in the very first attempt. Most of them have had second attempt or even third attempt. So from that point of view, India's statistical record is much better. And having said that, the Chandrayaan 2, the rover is there. It has been sending us some findings. We have gathered inputs, inferences from that. The only thing is that the agenda which we had envisaged could not be accomplished in totality. So yes, but at the same time, as you rightly mentioned, learning from that experience, certain modifications had been made, which of course we do even otherwise. Even after a successful mission, we try to go to the next level, learning from the experience of the earlier mission. Sometimes, it occurs to the mind that, look here, this could have been done this way, it didn't happen that way. Like, you direct a movie after having directed the earlier one. So that part, now here we have not only made up for the buffer, we have created a buffer cushion against what had happened last time, but also that we don't have, we just have a propulsion module and a lander module. So that component is now not going to be there. So that is also going to make this exercise slightly different. The area of landing has also been increased, and more significantly, this is going to land in the southern polar area, south polar area, which is relatively a virgin area as far as the explorations are concerned, even by the other countries. So, which means that the inputs that would be gathered by Chandrayaan 3 would be of great utility even to the other countries.
Give our viewers a sense, Dr. Jitendra Singh, of the kind of scientific takeaways from this mission, because it's not just the act of getting the rover to the moon and the soft landing, but there's a lot of serious science and research involved. Give our viewers a full sense of what do you hope Chandrayaan 3 will tell us and teach us about the moon.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Rahul, the Chandrayaan series in itself has placed India apart from other countries, even though we may have landed, some of the other countries had landed on the surface of the moon much before us, but it was Chandrayaan 1 which brought the evidence of the presence of water on the surface of moon. So that itself was a breakthrough, huge breakthrough for all the other nations which were already into it, whether that be the USA or the then USSR. Because the presence of water indicates the possibility of a human habitat happening sometime later in the future, because the H2O, the component, oxygen component of that. And this time, this is going to be an extension of that experiment on the one hand, because the South Polar area has varied craters over there, craters which contain water, because earlier on Chandrayaan-1 picked up evidence of H2O molecules, water molecules. Now we hope that this area which is being selected for landing would have more quantitatively more amount of water to experiment with, to gather inputs with. At the same time, there will be in situ experiments as well on the surrounding surface of the moon, and the possibility of human habitat being viable or not could be, I think, explored to the next level from where it was earlier. And that also makes the Chandrayaan series different from other countries, because they were not into this. And that's why I said the inputs which are expected from this mission are being very eagerly awaited even by the USA and the other countries which are already into it.
As Minister, what's your next priority? Of course, 23rd, 24th August, very important days in terms of the landing, and many phases between now and then. But what's the next big idea? What's the next thing that's got you and scientists at ISRO really excited?
Yeah, actually, in a mission like this now, since I've been associated for a number of years, each day is significant, because in the common parlays, what goes out is the milestone event or the milestone destination, like for example the landing of it. But in between, in the course of this journey of 42 days, there are a number of other, sensitive occasions which have to be very carefully followed up, attended to. Like for example, today it has gone out of the orbit of the Earth. Now what we would now look for is how smoothly it enters into the orbit of the Moon. So from the team which is following it or working on it, I think a number of other destinations happen before the final destination of landing happens, which of course is the ultimate.
Okay, you've had a long and rough ride all the way back. We literally requested you to sit down the moment you came back to Chennai, so I won't hold you back any longer. Congratulations on a successful launch, and as you said, there's a prayer on every lip as we look forward to 23rd, 24th August. Everybody will be anxious before that, but God willing, Sare Jahan Se Acha and the lunar probe will land successfully.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. So that was the Minister straight out of the car and joining us in this live broadcast. I want to shift our attention now to the Bastille Day celebrations in France. The Prime Minister was the guest of honor at the French Bastille Day celebrations, and 269-member Indian tri-service contingent proudly marched on the streets of Paris as Sare Jahan Se Acha rang through the air. This was India's moment in France.
The resounding beats of pipes and drums. India's tri-services marched down the famous three-lined Champs-Élysées in Paris. France extends one of its most spectacular recognitions to India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the guest of honor on the Bastille Day parade, an annual event that symbolically marks the birth of the modern French Republic back in 1789. The Prime Minister and the host, President Emmanuel Macron, watch Indian and French soldiers marching alongside in disciplined footsteps. India's 269-member tri-services contingent in all its splendor. Their steps echoing a centuries-old legacy, transcending borders and cultures. India's patriotism resonates through the French air. Bands played out the iconic Sare Jahan Se Achha tune. Prime Minister Modi took the salute. The hosts applauded the visual symphony of synchronized marching and captivating music. The Indian Army contingent, comprising of 77 personnel and 38 members of the band led by Captain Aman Jagtap. Commander Vrat Bhagel led the Indian Navy contingent. They move ahead with measured strides. Here comes the Indian Air Force contingent, led by squadron leader Sindhu Reddy. A rhythmic cadence flows out of their steps, a masterpiece of military precision. Dressed in their resplendent uniforms, adorned with medals and insignia, India's tri-services displayed their timeless elegance of tradition, seamlessly blending with the spirit of modernity in Europe's oldest and largest military parade. India's French-made Rafale jets soared in the French skies above. A stunning flypast over the Arc de Triomphe.
भारत-फ्रांस की स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के 25 साल के उत्सव का इससे बेहतर तरीका और क्या हो सकता है?
The two countries commemorate 25 years of their strategic partnership, a moment of profound significance, a moment of strengthened camaraderie. With Gaurav Sawant in Paris, Bureau Report, India Today.
Joining us live on the Newstrack at this moment, Rakesh Sood, former Indian ambassador to France. Air Marshal Anil Chopra has been in the Air Force, understands French weapon systems, Director General currently at the Centre for Air Power Studies. Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha has been Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Western Naval Command. I want to start by apologizing to my guests for getting late in coming to them. The Minister got held up in traffic right outside the hotel, and we started the interview with Dr. Jitendra Singh a lot later than we were originally expecting. So my profuse apologies before I begin. I want to go across to Ambassador Rakesh Sood first. You've seen the India-French relationship over the years. This is India's most reliable, oldest strategic partner in Europe. In terms of taking that relationship forward, Ambassador, and in terms of the announcements that have been made on the Scorpene submarine, on the purchase of the Rafale naval jets, how significant is this visit in comparison with the Prime Minister's recent visit to the US? When you look at what happened in Washington with what's happening in Paris, how do the two compare?
Well, I think first of all, let me tell you, as Prime Minister Modi just announced, that this is 25 years of India-France strategic partnership. France was the first country with which we established a strategic partnership in 1998. Now, since that time, we have seen a gradual development, a progression in India-France strategic partnership. When it began, there were three pillars: defense, nuclear, and space. Gradually, other pillars were added. Counter-terrorism was added. Intelligence sharing was added. Then smart cities and urbanization was added. Then economic investment was added. So, you know, it is a very full agenda. And there are about 40 bilateral dialogues every year between India and France. The other difference, and I know, you know, given the fact that the France visit is coming just after the US visit, there are bound to be comparisons. But I would say that with US, we have had ups and downs. Although in recent years, we have seen a consistency, you know, a bipolitical consensus in Washington on developing relations. But it is driven a lot by China. With France, we have not seen that factor play a role. With France, there is an ideological convergence. The ideological convergence comes from the fact that both India and France look to a multipolar world. And therein lies the difference.
That's an important point. America has pushed back, raised concerns. With France, it's been an upward trajectory for the past 25 years. I want to go across to Air Marshal Anil Chopra on the question of why the Air Force has preferred the naval variant of the Rafale to the F-18 Super Hornet. I mean, if I do a tech comparison of the F-18 with the Rafale naval variant, it seems that the F-18 has the edge, yet we've chosen the Rafale. Explain, as someone who's so passionate about French fighter jets, why you think...
Air and space connection with France for a very long time. We use their launch sites for putting our rockets into space. But especially for Rafale, I must tell you that our experience with Rafale, firstly, it had been selected out of 6 aircraft after a grueling competition. And finally, when we bought 36 of them, the plan was to make them in India. But thereafter, the Navy started their process between F-18 and the Rafale, and I'm so happy that finally the Navy has chosen the Rafale. There are big advantages. You know, we already have 36 aircraft. We have operational experience. We have got 2 air bases. They can take on more aircraft. If we have decided now that the Navy is going to have Rafale M, which is a very good aircraft, it's later than it has come later than the F-18. As far as the production timeline is concerned, so it is a better aircraft. And I personally feel today that if we have chosen to buy these 26 aircraft for Indian Navy, it would be a good idea. After all, we have been talking of Make in India. Maybe it will be a good idea to buy some more for the Air Force, which is falling short of numbers. Instead of going through the 114 aircraft, grueling selection process once again, and make them in India with a larger order for the Air Force, and of course even later on the Indian Navy may have a large order.
As a champion pilot who's flown the Mirage, you're clearly, your heart's beating for those French jets, and I can see that. Marshal, I want to go across to Vice Admiral Shekhar Sinha on India buying more Scorpene nuclear submarines in the context of China's rapid upgradation of its naval fleet, particularly submarines. China assisting Pakistan in upgrading its naval fleet. Do you think we're doing enough? And
use the skills of manufacturing the submarine because the line is already there and fixtures are around. It is better to add the the number of submarines so that the total numbers are a lot of them are getting decommissioned because of age, and we will fall short. And therefore, it's a very good decision to take that let's buy 3, or rather being manufactured here, will be built here. The good point is that the air independent propulsion system, the AIP, manufactured by the DRDO, which has already done the trials on platforms, that will be fitted into these submarines. Earlier, the French company was sort of...
Okay, I just want to tell our viewers, Vice Admiral, that the French President is speaking live at this time. The Indian Prime Minister is there, the media briefing. Gaurav Sawant is there as well. So I just want to cut across to what's happening at the President's residence.
Des fronts de la Grande Guerre. Et je veux vous dire l'émotion qui fut la nôtre ce matin et la grande fierté de revoir ce régiment de Pendjab. Et je l'imagine aussi cet écho en Inde. Nous allons aujourd'hui continuer à renforcer cette relation de confiance historique entre nos deux pays pour faire face à la fois aux crises internationales comme aux grands enjeux mondiaux. Je pense que nous partageons une préoccupation commune d'un risque de fragmentation de la communauté internationale, en particulier dans le contexte
और हम वैश्विक चुनौतियों का साथ समाधान ढूंढ सकते हैं, और जो G20 के शिखर वार्ता में उसकी कार्यसूची में होंगे। हम चाहते हैं कि जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय समुदाय है उसका खंडन के जोखिम से अपनी दुनिया को बचाए, और इसलिए हमने पेरिस एजेंडा और नया वित्तीय वैश्विक कॉम्पैक्ट पर इकट्ठे काम किया है। आपने सितंबर में जो दुनिया के राष्ट्राध्यक्ष होंगे, जो हेड्स ऑफ स्टेट और गवर्नमेंट होंगे, उनको आमंत्रित किया है और हम सब चाहते हैं कि एक ऐसे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय व्यवस्था का स्थापना हो जो शांति और विकास की ओर हमें ले जाए। मुझे बहुत गर्व हुआ था जब 2018 में मैंने आपके साथ अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सौर गठबंधन की स्थापना की थी और हम चाहते हैं कि बिजली का उत्पादन 2030 तक 1000 गीगावाट का हो। और हमने आपके पिछले जो यात्रा थी उसके दौरान भी हमने एक नया पहल शुरू किया था प्लास्टिक से संघर्ष का। तो ये जो दो उदाहरण हैं वो दर्शाते हैं कि हम अगर इकट्ठे काम करें तो हम सारे क्षेत्रों में नई संरचना बना सकते हैं, न सिर्फ जहां युद्ध से बचने के लिए। और G20, COP28 और जो संयुक्त राष्ट्र के समुद्र पर सम्मेलन होने जा रहा है नीस में 2025 में, उसका आयोजन भी हम इकट्ठे कर सकते हैं। तो के बीच में वो ठोस रूप ले रही है नए योजनाओं के साथ, खासकर जो आर्थिक योजनाएं हम इकट्ठे कर रहे हैं। भारत आज दूसरे सबसे बड़ा हमारा साझेदार है एशिया में। हमने नए कार्य क्षेत्र ढूंढे हैं जैसे कि स्टील, अंतरिक्ष, ऊर्जा, सिविल, न्यूक्लियर और टेक्नोलॉजी। ये जो नया स्थिति है जिसकी ओर हम अपनी द्विपक्षीय साझेदारी को ले जा रहे हैं, वो सिर्फ उन महिलाओं और पुरुषों की वजह से बना पाएंगे जो रोजाना इन संबंधों को जीते हैं, और उनमें से कई सारे आज रात के डिनर पर हमारे साथ आएंगे। और फिर हम युवा पीढ़ी को नहीं भूल सकते, क्योंकि भारत और फ्रांस में युवा ही आगे भविष्य की फ्रांस की छवि भारत में और भारत की छवि फ्रांस में इसको नया रुख देगी और उसको अब पुनर्निर्मित करेगी। 2025 में हमने सोचा था कि 20,000 फ्रांस के स्टूडेंट्स भारत तक पहुंचाएंगे, और कोविड के बावजूद हम इस लक्ष्य को पा पाए हैं। और हम समझते हैं कि यहां से 2030 तक 30,000 ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स को भेजेंगे और हमारे प्रयास इसकी ओर जाएंगे और क्षेत्र में भी बढ़ाएं ताकि संगीत, डांस और बाकी जो सांस्कृतिक क्षेत्र हैं उसमें भी साझा काम कर पाएं। हमारे साथ यहाँ पर फ्रांस में आए इस खास दिन के लिए, और जो 14 जुलाई की जो परेड है उसमें आपके जो आर्म्ड फोर्सेस जिन्होंने भाग लिया है उनको भी धन्यवाद देना चाहूंगा।
योर एक्सेलेंसी और मेरे प्रिय मित्र राष्ट्रपति मैक्रो, दोनों देशों के डेलीगेट्स, मीडिया के साथियों, नमस्कार। पेरिस जैसे खूबसूरत शहर में इस गर्मजोशी भरे स्वागत के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति मैक्रो का आभार प्रकट करता हूं। फ्रांस के लोगों को राष्ट्रीय दिवस के लिए बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं भी देता हूं। यह दिवस विश्व में लिबर्टी, इक्वालिटी और फ्रेटर्निटी जैसे मूल्यों का प्रतीक माना जाता है। ये मूल्य हमारे दो लोकतांत्रिक देशों के संबंधों का भी एक महत्वपूर्ण आधार है आज मुझे इस उत्सव में मुख्य अतिथि के रूप में शामिल होने का गौरव मिला। मुझे खुशी है कि इस अवसर की शोभा और गरिमा बढ़ाने के लिए भारत की तीनों सेनाओं की टुकड़ियों ने भाग लिया। भारतीय राफेल एयरक्राफ्ट का फ्लाईपास्ट भी हम सब ने देखा। हमारी नौसेना का जहाज भी फ्रांस के पोर्ट पर मौजूद था, यानी जल, थल, नभ हमारे बढ़ते सहयोग की एक शानदार तस्वीर हमें एक साथ देखने को मिली। कल राष्ट्रपति मैक्रोन ने मुझे फ्रांस के सर्वश्रेष्ठ राष्ट्रीय पुरस्कार से सम्मानित किया। ये सम्मान 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों का सम्मान है। फ्रेंड्स, हम अपनी स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप की 25वीं वर्षगांठ मना रहे हैं। बीते 25 वर्षों के मजबूत आधार पर हम आने वाले 25 वर्षों के लिए रोड मैप तैयार कर रहे हैं। इसमें बोल्ड और महत्वाकांक्षी लक्ष्य निर्धारित किए जा रहे हैं। भारत के लोगों ने भी इस कालखंड में एक विकसित देश बनाने का संकल्प लिया है। इस यात्रा में हम फ्रांस को एक नेचुरल पार्टनर के रूप में देखते हैं। 2 दिनों में हमें आपसी सहयोग के सभी क्षेत्रों पर विस्तार से बात करने का अवसर मिल रहा है। आर्थिक संबंधों को और सुदृढ़ करना हमारी साझा प्राथमिकता है। रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, सेमीकंडक्टर्स, साइबर, डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी जैसे अनेक क्षेत्रों में सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए हम नए इनिशिएटिव्स की पहचान कर रहे हैं। भारत के यूपीआई यानी यूनिफाइड पेमेंट्स इंटरफेस को फ्रांस में लॉन्च करने पर समझौता हुआ है। हम दोनों देशों के स्टार्टअप और इनोवेशन इकोसिस्टम को आपस में जोड़ने पर बल दे रहे हैं। समान विचारधारा वाले देशों के साथ मिलकर हमें टेक्नोलॉजी सप्लाई चेन्स के लोकतांत्रिकरण के लिए लगातार काम करना चाहिए। क्लाइमेट चेंज और पर्यावरण सुरक्षा हमारी साझा और मुख्य प्राथमिकता रही है। इस दिशा में हमने पहले ही इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस स्थापित किया था, जो अब एक मूवमेंट बन गया है। अब हम ब्लू इकोनॉमी और ओशन गवर्नेंस के रोडमैप पर तेजी से काम करना चाहते हैं। सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक के खिलाफ हम एक साझा पहल पर आगे बढ़ेंगे। इंडियन ऑयल और फ्रांस की टोटल कंपनी में एलएनजी के निर्यात के लिए जो लॉन्ग टर्म एग्रीमेंट हुआ है, मैं उसका स्वागत है। इससे हमारे क्लीन एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन के लक्ष्यों को बल मिलेगा। अब से कुछ देर बाद हम भारत फ्रांस सीईओज फोरम में भी हिस्सा लेने वाले हैं। दोनों देशों के बिजनेस प्रतिनिधियों के साथ आर्थिक सहयोग मजबूत करने पर विस्तार से चर्चा होगी। फ्रेंड्स, रक्षा सहयोग हमारे संबंधों का एक मूलभूत स्तंभ रहा है। यह दोनों देशों के बीच गहरे आपसी विश्वास का प्रतीक है। मेक इन इंडिया और आत्मनिर्भर भारत, इसमें फ्रांस एक अहम पार्टनर है। आज हम रक्षा के क्षेत्र में भारत में नई टेक्नोलॉजी के को प्रोडक्शन और को डेवलपमेंट पर बात करेंगे। सबमरीन हो या फिर नौसेना के जहाज, हम चाहते हैं कि मिलकर केवल अपनी ही नहीं, तीसरे मित्र देशों की जरूरतों को भी पूरा करने के लिए हम काम करें। हमारी डिफेंस स्पेस एजेंसीज के बीच सहयोग बढ़ाने की संभावनाएं हैं। फ्रांस की कंपनियों द्वारा एमआरओ फैसिलिटीज, स्पेयर पार्ट्स, हेलीकॉप्टर के लिए इंजन का प्रोडक्शन भी भारत में किए जाने पर हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। हम इसमें हमारे सहयोग को और सशक्त करने पर बल देंगे। सिविल न्यूक्लियर क्षेत्र में सहयोग को आगे बढ़ाते हुए हम स्मॉल एंड एडवांस मॉड्यूलर रिएक्टर्स में सहयोग की संभावना पर चर्चा करेंगे। आज भारत में चंद्रयान के सफल लॉन्च पर पूरा भारत उत्साहित है। यह हमारे वैज्ञानिकों की बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है। अंतरिक्ष के क्षेत्र में भारत और फ्रांस का पुराना और गहरा सहयोग है। हमारी स्पेस एजेंसीज के बीच नए समझौते हुए हैं। इसमें सैटेलाइट लॉन्च सर्विसेज, समुद्र और धरती के तापमान और वातावरण को मॉनिटर करने के लिए तृष्णा सैटेलाइट बनाने का काम शामिल है। स्पेस बेस्ड मैरीटाइम डोमेन अवेयरनेस जैसे क्षेत्रों में भी हम अपना सहयोग बढ़ा सकते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और फ्रांस के बीच लंबे समय से गहरे पीपल टू पीपल कांटेक्ट रहे हैं। हमारी आज की चर्चाओं से ये संबंध और मजबूत होंगे। हम फ्रांस के दक्षिण में मार्से शहर में नया भारतीय कॉन्सुलेट खोलेंगे। फ्रांस में पढ़े हुए भारतीय मूल के लोगों के लिए लॉन्ग टर्म वीजा देने के निर्णय का हम स्वागत करते हैं। हम फ्रांस के विश्वविद्यालयों को भारत में अपने कैंपस स्थापित करने के लिए आमंत्रित करते हैं। दिल्ली में बनाए जाने वाले नए राष्ट्रीय म्यूजियम में फ्रांस एक पार्टनर के रूप में जुड़ रहा है। अगले वर्ष पेरिस में होने वाले ओलंपिक्स के लिए सभी भारतीय एथलीट्स बहुत ही उत्सुक हैं। इसके सफल आयोजन के लिए मैं राष्ट्रपति मैक्रो और उनकी पूरी टीम को शुभकामनाएं देता हूं। फ्रेंड्स, आज हम कई महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्रीय और वैश्विक मुद्दों पर भी चर्चा करेंगे। इंडो पैसिफिक के रेसिडेंट पावर्स के रूप में इस क्षेत्र में शांति और स्थिरता के लिए भारत और फ्रांस की विशेष जिम्मेदारी है। हमारे सहयोग को एक रचनात्मक स्वरूप देने के लिए हम इंडो पैसिफिक कोऑपरेशन रोडमैप पर काम कर रहे हैं। इंडो पैसिफिक ट्रायंगुलर डेवलपमेंट कोऑपरेशन फंड के प्रस्ताव पर भी दोनों पक्ष में चर्चा में है। इससे पूरे क्षेत्र में स्टार्टअप्स और इनोवेशन को बढ़ावा देने के नए अवसर खुलेंगे। भारत के इंडो पैसिफिक ओशन इनिशिएटिव्स में फ्रांस द्वारा मैरीटाइम रिसोर्स पिलर को लीड करने के निर्णय का हम स्वागत करते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, कोविड महामारी और यूक्रेन संघर्ष के प्रभाव पूरे विश्व पर पड़े हैं। ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों पर इनका विशेष रूप से नकारात्मक प्रभाव पड़ा है। यह चिंता का विषय है। इन समस्याओं के समाधान के लिए सभी देशों का एकजुट होकर प्रयास करना आवश्यक है। हमारा मानना है कि सभी विवादों का समाधान डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के माध्यम से होना चाहिए। भारत स्थायी शांति की बहाली में योगदान देने के लिए तैयार है। आतंकवाद के विरुद्ध लड़ाई में भारत और फ्रांस हमेशा साथ रहे हैं। हम मानते हैं कि क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को समाप्त करने के लिए ठोस कार्रवाई की आवश्यकता है। इस दिशा में सहयोग बढ़ाने पर दोनों देश सहमत हैं। राष्ट्रपति मैक्रो इस वर्ष G20 समिट के दौरान आपका भारत में स्वागत करने के लिए मैं और सभी भारतवासी बहुत ही उत्सुक हैं। एक बार फिर आपकी मित्रता और मुझे दिए गए आदर सत्कार के लिए मैं आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं।